You are listening to This is Oklahoma, hosted by Mike Hearn, telling stories of Oklahomans and those that have made it their home.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of This is Oklahoma Podcast. Mike Hearn here, your host, back with another episode. Excited to share this episode with you today, but before we do, I've got to thank our sponsors. First of all, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. They've been a huge part of this podcast for the last few years, so the Oklahoma Hall of Fame have been sharing Oklahoma's story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com, and for daily updates, go to oklahomahof on Instagram and give them a follow. Our other sponsor today is the Chickasaw Nation. Now, the Chickasaw Nation have sponsored pretty much everything in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and it's an honor to have their name and their brand supporting this podcast. A huge shout out to Governor Anatobi for supporting this podcast. It really means a lot. Our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us Saturday, September 30th for our Sobriety Sprint 5K as we remember, honor, and celebrate those who've lost their lives. This family-focused event will feature a 1-mile fun run, inflatables, food trucks, and more. Register to run or honor a loved one at sobrietysprint.com. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high-quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below. All right, guys, next episode, finishing up, we have Parker Wilson here, who was Pete number 91 from 2020 to 2022. Parker's also brought his beautiful golden lab?
Golden Retriever,
honey,
get a shot of her.
who is here, currently in training, 4 months?
Yeah, she's 4 months old.
You're not going to be able to do that for much longer. Thanks for coming down. Excited to hear some Pete stories. But before we do, talk a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little bit about kind of like your story and Oklahoma born and raised. How do you get to Oklahoma State, stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. So my name is Parker Wilson. I was born and raised in Sapulpa, Oklahoma. Growing up, I was a big wrestler, football player, baseball player, big sports guy, I guess you could say. I never really did any mascotting at all. Little kind of side note, my dad was Pistol Pete back in the day when he was in college. So all growing up, we'd go to OSU football games, homecoming, whatever it may be, and we'd hang out with the Pistol Petes, the old Pistol Petes. So it was always one of those things where I was around those guys and I saw how tight knit they were. And I was originally going to go play sports in college, and kind of last minute I decided not to do that. Want to go to Oklahoma State, join a fraternity, and then in the back of my mind it was always kind of like, man, the Pistol Pete thing could be cool, So I started trying out my freshman year, kind of just one of those things. Like I kind of want to experience everything, so I was like, I'll try it out. Didn't get it. Wasn't too bummed. I mean, I wasn't ready for it, to be completely honest with you. And historically it had been like juniors and seniors who usually get it anyway. But it was a cool experience to go through. But yeah, through college, I was in a fraternity, did all of the, college student things. I get off the table. But yeah, and then sophomore year, I tried out again. Didn't get it. Junior year, tried out again, didn't get it. And towards the end of college, I was in clubs, I was in these sort of things, and I was just trying to like expand my horizon, I guess you could say. And after my junior year, I was pretty upset that I didn't get it because I really, really wanted it then. And then going into junior year, everything closes, and then senior year rolls around. And I was like, okay, this is my year to get it. And I tried out and got it. And it was actually during COVID. We just came back from COVID. And so senior year, I tried out and got it. And it's kind of weird during the tryout process. I don't know if people watch the OSU Max, but they actually just did a documentary of how the process goes, that sort of thing. Mine was not like that. They brought us in there. You had a 15-minute window to come in, do your tryout. And then you had to leave, and then you just got an email whether, if you're Pistol Pete or not, pretty much. So I got the email, and I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing started, and it was craziness. They'll tell you everything. Your life will change, and I was 21 at the time. You take it as it was, but you don't really grasp it until you're gone. And I'm like, man, my life has really changed because of this whole thing, and it's been awesome.
What number was Dad?
My dad was Pete, number 39.
Okay. And all these times you're trying, you're not getting it.
Mm-hmm.
It must be hard for Dad because he's like, I can't have any influence. Like it's not up to me.
Right.
But also, that's such a tough position to be in as a dad too. Be like, keep trying. I'm sure you'll get it at some point. But also, like after the second or third try, you're like, maybe it's just not meant for me.
Right. Yeah. He was actually on the selection committee. He was one of the judges for the past 15 years. Yeah. So he sat out all the years that I tried out until, obviously after I was Pete and everything. But yeah, he was sitting at home always waiting on the call. So for 3 years it was, Dad, I didn't get it, that sort of thing.
Brutal.
But when he got the call that I got it, he was pretty happy. He got out we have a big flagpole in our front yard. He had the Pistol Pete flag flying, and he sent me pictures. It was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, that's really cool. Is Sepulpa where Bullet stays as well?
I think I've heard that, yeah.
Right? I heard that because I had Elise on the podcast who wrote Bullet, however many years ago, not that long ago, Elise Wade. And she was like, yeah, we just said to keep driving back and forth. I don't stay in Stillwater. She's like, I go to Sepulpa every day or whatever it was to find, to ride Bullet. But so you finally get it. Mm-hmm. What's going through your mind leading up to not getting it? Like, so you talk for that process, for that 15 minutes, what do you do for those 15 minutes? They give you some criteria and say, hey, and for 15 minutes, you got these things to do, and then... Yeah,
it's always pretty standard, the questioning. They bring you in, they ask you a line of questioning of who are you, where are you from, that sort of thing. And then it moves into tell me about the history of Frank Eaton. And you go through the history. Once you go through that, then they'll ask you to put the head on, walk around, and it's always looks goofy. Even the Petes who have to come back and try out again, because all it is a head, and you have black jeans and a white shirt. So it really looks like some guy walking around with a bobblehead on. Yeah. Nobody really looks good, but they kind of judge you off that. The walk. They give you different scenarios, like a little girl's crying. What are you going to do? You get down on your knees and you play peekaboo, or you do whatever. But yeah, they tell you to do that, and then they tell you to take the head off and go back and wait your turn. Bring somebody else in. So you really only get that 15 minutes of airtime. And for me, I guess that last time it was a lot of pressure because it wasn't just like some job where if you don't get it, you can just move on to the next. It was, if I don't get this time, I'll never be able to do this again. And that was big for me. For my dad, I always kind of wanted to do things off my own. Yes, he did it too. But, everyone likes making their dad proud, Sure. So I was happy I got to do that. Yeah.
Tell me about the walk. How does that, how do you develop that walk? How do you develop that swagger, that special kind of the way that he presents himself? Mm-hmm. And do you get coaching on it after you get selected?
Well, most people, yes, do get coaching after. My dad did work with me a lot leading up to it. And it is kind of strange. You kind of have to put yourself in that, old-timey cowboy mode, You're kind of have to push your hips up a little bit, bend your knees, and just kind of sway back and forth, and everything. Your head is this big, so you kind of have to, bring your arms out a little bit and kind of sway back and forth, and it takes some getting to used to, for sure. But once you get it, you don't really forget it. It is really goofy when you're not doing it without a head on. You kind of look like an idiot. But if you walk like a normal person with a head on, you look like an idiot too. So it's just one of those things. Right. You take some videos of yourself and you walk around a room. You're like, oh, okay, I could change this and change that. And that's the cool thing. Everybody walks different. Everybody does different things. So I can always tell if I see a video of Pete, I can tell instantly if that's me or not, and everyone can do that. Yeah, just by the mannerisms, by the hands. Some people do different things. I can always tell. My girlfriend is like, how do you know that's you? And I'm like, because I know. I can tell. I've watched so many videos of myself, and I practice that. So.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, it's a serious position. It's a serious, you're such an icon of Oklahoma State for the years that you do it, right? And everyone's looking at you, whether it's the grandparents or the kid. Everyone knows who Pistol Pete is, and everyone has that interaction. And you got to be on your game the whole time, right? And that's it's a lot of work. It's a heavy head, but also you might be meeting someone for the first time and they've met Pete for the first time, right? Yeah. And you got to remember that, and to have that swagger and have that, like I said, that cowboy kind of walk about you. And, I'm sure there are days you're just like, I just can't do this today. Mm-hmm. But you've got to just look yourself in the mirror and be like, it's like the Joker putting his face on kind of thing. You're like, okay, Clown put his face on, I've got to be, take a deep breath and get after it.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing. A lot of fans, they only see 10% of Pistol Pete at the games. But the other 90%, we're doing 4 to 5 weddings every week. We're going to kids' birthday parties. We're doing all of these things. So you were talking about you always have to be on, because this might be the only time, or the first time, or the only time, little kids see Pistol Pete. So, it could be a Saturday morning. I've done it Saturday morning at 8 a.m. at a kid's playroom. And you're walking in, you're driving up from Stillwater to Arkansas, you're leaving at 4 o'clock in the morning, whatever it may be. And you have to be on for that 30 minutes or an hour. And you're dead tired because you did, 3 events the night before, went to bed at, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock in the morning. But you got to go and go do that in the morning. It's always... It's a big job and it's a big task, but it's always, in the back of your mind of, this is way bigger than yourself. Sure. This is somebody else that you're talking about, and you're making them feel special just by you being here, which is a really big honor. You know? Even though you aren't the person, they're not hiring Parker Wilson to come in and do this. They're hiring Pistol Pete, and we're just a representation of Frank Eaton. So. Yeah, and the history and the legacy of Frank. Exactly. That's a huge thing, and it's a huge weight to carry on your shoulders, pun intended, because the helmet's heavy as well. What was your first game like? My first game, nerve-wracking.
Was it football or basketball?
It was football. Okay. Yep, so it was football.
And as Gary mentioned earlier, you get presented with your spurs before the game.
Yes.
So it's quite a big moment anyway.
Absolutely.
And then you've got to go out on the field.
Right. Yeah, I guess you could say, being Pistol Pete, you're not famous, but you're kind of semi-famous in the eyes of...
You're famous.
OSU, fans. But everyone that's Pistol Pete is really just a nonchalant kind of guy. We don't really like a lot of, attention on ourselves, that sort of thing. So it is a little nerve-wracking when you're, being presented at the Spurs ceremony in front of hundreds of people, and they're saying, this is Parker Wilson. He's going to be representing Pistol Pete. And, even now I kind of get goosebumps. Like, man, it's a big opportunity and a big job. In the back of your mind, you're like, oh man, I hope I don't mess up. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's awesome. It's just one of those things when something's put up, in front of you and you sign up for and you are selected for it. Everyone else thinks that you're the best man for the job, and it's time for you to just go out there and do it. But yeah, it's once you get in the groove of it, it's really no big deal. You get used to 50,000 people looking at you, and it is cool. And I guess the first game, we did have the summer leading into it, doing weddings, things like that, to kind of, get your bearings a little bit. So it wasn't the most nerve-wracking. It wasn't like, drinking out of a fire hose, like, okay, you're up. You know what I mean? You got a little bit of practice. Yeah. So you kind of knew what to expect, but, oh, yeah, it's loud. It's loud. And when you're shooting the gun off in front of everybody in the middle of the field, it's the most adrenaline I've ever had.
Well, it starts with you.
Yeah, right? It starts.
Like OSU game, everyone does their thing. Guys come out stretch, whatever. Players come out, and then everyone looks at you, and you're in the middle of the field. You get off the gator. Les is probably driving it, and everyone's quiet, and then you do your thing. Right? Other Pete's do their thing. Like to have everyone's eyeballs on you, waiting for the signal, right? Yeah. I mean, it's what a rush that is. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And then during the game too, here's one quick. I think we were playing Tulsa my first year. I was Pete, and we weren't doing very well. I think we were winning, but the game was just slow. It was kind of a boring game to watch. We weren't playing that well. And one of my friends texted me, and Michael Albright, he was my partner, was Pete at the time, and I was just off to the side. And he's like, you need to get something going, like have Pete shoot the shotgun. So at a timeout, I told Michael, I handed him the shotgun. I was like, go shoot this gun. So he goes out there, shoots the gun, and everyone was quiet at the time. And it kind of gets like everybody riled up. And then we just like go on a run and score like, I don't know, it's like 14, 21 points, something like that. And I don't know, you could say it was because of that, or, you could take either direction, but I think it helped. It really gets people up on their feet when you hear a shotgun, 12-gauge shotgun blast, and everyone reacts, and it kind of gets the team, kind of in the mojo. All right, let's go. Yeah. So it was kind of funny. My buddy Kyle Mooney texted me that, and so I give credit to him.
Well, it's a reset, right? Yeah. Like it's one of the biggest resets.
Absolutely.
Hearing that go off in a stadium, and do you guys wear ear protection for that or not?
No, it's actually very well insulated inside that head.
Sure.
Now, when you're the guy next to him, I always kind of cover my ears up because it is loud. Because it's there's two shells that are going off at the same time. It's a double trigger. So we always shot two. I don't know what they do now, but we always shot two just to make it as loud as possible. But yeah, it's loud. It's really loud.
Tell me about game day. How let's go with football. How does game day start for you? What's that process like? And I mean, how early do you start? Say we have a 2:00 game. Okay. What things start there?
I'll have to think back on this, see if I can get everything right. So a 2:00 game, we would wake up. Michael and I would wake up, I don't know, around 7 o'clock in the morning. Wake up, get to the field around 9 o'clock, probably. From there, we would carry the big heads up into Gallagher, take the elevator down, put it in our storage deal, kind of hang out there for a little bit. And then it depended what was going on. They had just started doing, Les Thomas had just started doing the tailgate of the game or whatever, and he would do that before all the activities started. So sometimes we would have to go, one of us would have to get dressed, we'd get on the gator and go to a tailgate, do a little photo op thing. So that would happen. And then I believe it's 2 hours before the game, so let's just say 12:30ish, about 11:30 to 12ish. We would load up the truck and go to the Alumni Center, hang out there for 15 minutes, let's say, and then we would do the walk. We'd go out to what do you call it? That little plaza that's right there. Yeah. Kind of hang out there, take pictures. Everyone starts forming around. And then the team starts coming out. We lead them in. I think you shoot the shotgun twice through there, and I kind of always felt bad for the people that were right next to me, like the little kids, big shotguns going off. But yeah, I mean, it's thrilling, walking through there, because I remember as a kid watching Pete and watching the team do the walk, and now I'm a part of it.
You're leading.
Yeah, you're leading it. So from there, you go into the stadium, hang out there for a little bit, And then they did a photo op with Pistol Pete right outside the stadium. So you do that, come back in, kind of chill for a little bit, and then you'd get ready for the Gator deal. Get on the back of Gator and go out there and shoot the shotgun. So, I mean, it was an all-day event. Then do the game. A lot of people don't know. Everyone thinks that Pistol Pete like magically just comes indoors. Like Pistol Pete's on the east side, and then he's on the west side, and they're always, people are looking for him. Like, how to get over there? I didn't even see him go. Well, there's actually two heads, and so one guy, once he gets done with the first quarter, he'll go put all this stuff on the east side, and then he'll go around the stadium, and then the guy will come out on the west side.
Okay.
Yeah. So each quarter it switches.
Yeah.
But yeah, you do that all game, and then after that, load everything up and go home, and you're all sweaty, nasty. Especially like weather like this, when it's 105 outside. Yeah. It was hot.
Yeah, I was thinking the amount of water weight that you lose during a game.
I think I would lose like 7 pounds a day on a game day. Jeez. 7-8 pounds, something like that.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad. And then sometimes this would happen. We do the whole game. Let's say it was 11 a.m. kickoff. Then you'd have a couple events that night.
Yeah. Weddings, birthdays.
Yeah, because it's Saturday night.
Yeah.
That's when people get married. So.
How is that? Like, what's that like being at people's? A wedding, like that's something they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. Hopefully they only get married once. Like having Pete there is a huge, people request it. Sometimes you don't get it because it's double booked. So like it's a huge moment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was really weird for me because I have always, dancing hasn't been my biggest thing growing up. Even at weddings, I was always the guy, standing off to the side, having a drink or whatever it may be. So I never really was on the dance floor. Now I'm Pistol Pete, and I'm going to all these weddings. Well, I have to be in the middle. I have to be dancing. I have to be having a good time. So it really pushed me out of my comfort zone for sure. Yeah. But yeah, get there and get suited up. They always have someone there expecting you. So it's a pretty easy process. Yeah. You come in this door, change here, and then when I tell you go out there, you go. Yeah. And everyone's always like, so what are you going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, whatever I want to do. I don't know
if I can shoot shotguns inside, but
just do whatever. What I always like doing is going and finding the guy with no hair that's bald, and I'd have the handkerchief, and I'd always go and shine his head up, and everyone always loved that. So
that is awesome. So I mean, you did it during kind of a very strange period, right? Mm-hmm. COVID wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. I mean, any stories from that moment of just how different it was and how you kind of get through it, and also, just good times as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so how the Pistol Pete tryouts go, once you're Pete that night, you have events starting the next day, which is a big task. And fortunately, I didn't have that because we were right in the heart of COVID. So I had a good break where I'd have an event, one day, and then I wouldn't have an event for 2 weeks. So it was a good way to kind of practice, kind of digest everything, I guess you could say. We didn't do as many events as the other guys. That's just a given. There weren't as many weddings, birthday parties, that sort of thing. But yeah, it was weird. Going to the games, you have to wear a mask in this way. You have to enter through this door. Real stories, I don't really know any real stories. I guess the one thing is we couldn't be on the field, so we were right underneath the big screen there that's on Gallagher. Yeah. And that was very weird, just walking back, and you couldn't do anything. Right. All you did was go back and forth. Yeah. So we really had to get creative on what we were going to do. We had all these plans, and we kept on getting rejected. We were going to bring live like a boat out there, like a Sea-Doo or whatever, and just go it across the tarmac or whatever. We're like, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, what are we going to do? We're just standing up here. But no, shooting the shotgun up there was really loud. Probably the loudest I've ever heard because there was that brick wall right behind. So that was not fun. I remember we did it the first time, and all the cheerleaders, they didn't kind of put their hands up to their ears, and it really rang their bell. So after that, everyone was always putting earplugs in their ears. But yeah, that was a very weird year.
What of the good times then? What the outside of COVID? What's some stories from your travels? Obviously you go to games and stuff. What's that like?
Games are really fun. So you travel with the Spirit Squad, with the Palm team and the cheerleaders. And I didn't really know a lot of those people before. So getting to know them was really cool. You're just traveling like a sports team, You're flying. I went to the Fiesta Bowl there in Arizona. That was awesome. Just going to the Cardinals Stadium and went to the Big 12 champion second year. Going underneath the Cowboy Stadium and all through the back tunnels, and you're seeing, all the Bentleys and Mercedes and all the executives that park underneath the stadium is pretty cool. And going to the locker rooms, and then you just walk out in the field like you own the place, and that's kind of the attitude that you have to have. Yeah. Nobody wants to see like a scared Pete or like kind of scared to do something. You know what I mean? Yeah. You want to interact with everybody. Once you're there, you really do kind of own the place, which is kind of strange once you're really new to it. Mm-hmm. But it is really fun. Yeah. Oh, I had so much fun. I think the Big 12 championship, me and Michael got all media pass, so we had these big passes, and we could go anywhere we wanted. So like the football team's warming up pregame, the cheerleaders are stretching and doing whatever they do, and me and Michael, we go to the suites down below and we start just eating breakfast because our card worked. We got in the door and we're just taking pictures, and everyone's looking at us like, Are they in there eating breakfast right now? And we had bacon and eggs and all these like fancy desserts, and we're just in there eating, and it was awesome. I mean, you get all the luxuries. I will say my favorite travel story though, and this is really cool. I think it was in October of my first year, so it was very new when I was Pete. Becky Jackson, this Spirit coordinator, called me. He was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Florida?" And I was like, "Yeah, when?" So TaylorMade, the golf company, just rolled out their Pistol Pete balls that they were doing for Matt Wolf and Ricky Fowler. And they're like, "Yeah, we want to have Pistol Pete at our photo shoot in Jupiter, Florida at Trump National. So be here at this day." And there was like no direction. I didn't know if I was going to see anybody. I didn't know if I was going to be in a back room for 5 minutes, do a photo shoot and come out or whatever. So I don't think Becky knows this, but I actually took one of my buddies. I told everybody he was my manager at the time. It was literally just one of my friends. So we loaded up and we got on a plane to Jupiter, Florida. Got our rental car and hotel and just kind of hung out there. And then we show up to Trump National, which is just a unbelievable golf course. And we pull up, go through the VIP access point, and we see Matt Wolf, Ricky Fowler, Dustin Johnson, Roy McIlroy all hitting on the range. And we're like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So then as soon as I get there, they put me in a room. We start doing a photo shoot with the ball. And my buddy is right behind because I introduced him as my manager, So he's watching the photo shoot go on, and some guy comes up behind him and he's like, "Hey, have you seen my phone anywhere?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he turns around and it's like Dustin Johnson, and he had just won the Masters. And my buddy's like a huge golf fan, and I could see him, say he's right there looking at us, and I could see him, his eyes are just like this wide, like, oh my God, that's Dustin Johnson. So it was really cool. And then we did a little commercial video shoot with Ricky and Matt after that. And then I took the head off and we took some pictures, and we just talked for an hour, me, Ricky, Matt, and my buddy. And Matt, he's my age. We didn't know him personally in college, but we knew we had friends of friends. And he's like, "So how long y'all staying?" And we're like, "Well, we're getting on a plane tomorrow morning and going home." He's like, "Well, I have a jet that's going back to Oklahoma City tonight if you guys just want to hop on." And we were like, "Yeah, let's do that." So we went back to our hotel, loaded all our stuff, and he brought us to his house. We just hung out for the day, and then went to the private airport, got on his plane, and flew home. So it was just one of those things where you didn't really expect anything. Like I said, they didn't have any direction at all. And then it turns out we get to meet all these famous golfers, ride home on a private jet. It was crazy.
Your buddies at the trip is life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just tell me I'm your manager. No big deal.
Right.
Just don't say anything. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Finishing up, what what's it like being on the other side? Like, what's it like, being out and being a part of the fraternity now, and guys and groups that, on the other side of being Pete?
Yeah, absolutely. When I said that it changed my life forever, it really did. You live in that era through college, and it's awesome at that time. And then you graduate, and you're like, okay, what am I doing now? You're looking for jobs, that sort of thing. And what direction do I turn? So I turned to the Pistol Pete kind of fraternity, and like, hey, I'm looking for a job, this sort of thing. Boom, here's an opportunity. So now I go to work. I got a job through another Pistol Pete at his company. And it's just one after another of, because I did this in college, it has blessed me with all of these opportunities in the future, and it's been awesome, And you get to go back to Oklahoma State games, and you just get to share stories, meet new people, and people know you because of what you did. For some of these guys, like my dad, 30 years ago or whatever it may be, and he still gets introduced. This is Rick Wilson. He was a Pistol Pete. This is Parker. Whatever it may be, which is awesome. We weren't the guys, on the field, breaking our necks, breaking our arms, everything. We never really, we're in danger. We just did this small role, and it's really cool to see all the opportunities after. And I encourage everyone to do it. When I was trying out, I think everybody who probably tried out was like kind of a goofy deal. You're walking around, you don't really know everything that happens, and you just kind of, not fall into it, but you just kind of take a leap of faith, I guess you could say. And I would do it again every single day. And I miss it. I really do.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you miss it. Like, it sounds like one of the best clubs to be a part of. Yeah. And the good thing is now that you get to be a part of it for the rest of your life, going to present the Spurs to next year or this year's game or whatever it was, like, you're a huge part of it, and obviously you're kind of special. You got your dad involved in it too. Right. So thanks for coming down. Thanks for bringing the dog. Appreciate you sharing some stories, and excited to hear more. As things go on, and it's been a pleasure to share your story and the other guys' stories as well. So for people listening, reach out to the guys. Reach out if you want to be a Pete. If you think about being a Pete, you should strongly consider it and get involved. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next episode. Cheers. Hope you guys enjoyed that great episode. Thank you so much for listening. As always, huge shout out to our sponsors, the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, sharing Oklahoma story through its people since 1927. For more information on the Oklahoma Hall of Fame, go to www.oklahomahof.com and follow them on Instagram for daily updates at oklahomahof. Our other sponsor, the Chickasaw Nation, amazing sponsor. They do amazing things for the state, and they're always sponsoring something in Oklahoma. They're a huge supporter of Oklahoma, and without their support, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And our third sponsor is Diffie Ford Lincoln down in El Reno. Now, this one makes me so happy because these guys are great friends of mine, play a lot of golf together. I've bought my cars from them, do most of my oil changes down there, have a cup of coffee, hang out down in El Reno. It's a good spot to go. And not only are they great friends, but they provide a great service. So for over 60 years, third generation family owned Oklahoma business down in El Reno. They're also in Bethany as well. So people in the Bethany area know the Diffies really well. But if you're looking for anything new, used, Ford, Lincoln, or whatever, I'm sure they could find anything you want. Check them out, diffieford.net, and then on Instagram at diffiefordlincoln. This podcast is brought to you by the Oklahoma Beef Council. On behalf of Oklahoma's 50,000 beef farming and ranching families, we are working hard every day to bring high quality beef to your table. To learn more, visit oklabeef.org. That's oklabeef.org, linked below. This episode is brought to you by Hope is Alive. Hope is Alive exists to radically change the lives of drug addicts, alcoholics, and those who love them. Join us Saturday, September 30th for our Sobriety Sprint 5K as we remember, honor, and celebrate those who've lost their lives. This family-focused event will feature a 1-mile fun run, inflatables, food trucks, and more. Register to run or honor a loved one at sobrietysprint.com.
Thank you for listening. We are inspired by those around us and hope that you are too. Make sure you subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast platform and leave us a review so we can keep telling your stories. For more great Oklahoma content, follow This is Oklahoma on Facebook and Instagram.